Overcoming a contrived and consensus reality. I feel like I'm living in a reality of someone or something else's making. How did this happen? And what can I do to get back into my own perfect, proper, and appropriate reality? Thank you, Jeff.
Do you really think and believe that millions of evolved souls would say yes to come to Earth just to die in a totalitarian new world order? Absolutely not. We came to flip this world upside down, back to its original state and more. We came here for the new Earth, for world peace, for the immortal golden age, for a new Eden. We came here for nothing less than to send a wave of light and love across the universe, signaling the birth of a new order of divine justice, peace, compassion, and love. I just love that. I just love that. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about contrived realities. And I'm going to start with a little bit of a reading. It's a little lengthy, but I think it's well worth it. It's a really cool piece. And it's out of the book, You Are a Spiritual Being, Having a Human Experience. And it's titled Creating Reality. When I say that we are spiritual beings, I mean that we are involved in matters of a very broad and general concern. Our spiritual work is not just about our own personal happiness. It is about the fate of the planet, and actually more than that, the fate of all life everywhere. We have taken human form in order to help the birthing of the planet onto the next dimensional level. And in order to achieve our own ascension, we need to identify ourselves with this fact and this task. As spiritual beings, it is our business to create reality. I'm going to repeat that. As spiritual beings, it is our business to create reality. And I'm going to say, to date, this has gotten out of hand, and we have forgotten who we are as spiritual beings, and we're no longer creating reality. We've lost control. Now, fortunately, that's beginning to come back, and that's beginning to shift, and that's what tonight is about. It is also our business to create what is not reality. If we live in ignorance and illusion, this is just as much our creation as is living in awareness and truth. And that's very poignant, because I get a lot of clients, and my point to them is you are creating your reality, whether you know it or not, whether you're aware of it or not. And if you're not consciously creating your reality, then it's being created for you. Somebody else's agenda is playing out in your life. If you're not living your life, you're living somebody else's version of that life. Plain and simple. Reality is our creation 100% of the time, whether we acknowledge the fact or whether we are ignorant of it or whether we deny it. The only distinction is that if we know it and acknowledge it, we have the opportunity to create reality consciously. And if we don't know it, or if we know it and don't like it, or some variation thereof, we still create reality, but we do it unconsciously or in a way that puts us at the effect of life so that we become victims having no power. Reality itself is therefore a function of our consciousness. And that means that whenever we are facing problems or difficulties, whatever the problems might be, whether it is a personal problem or a global or universal problem, it can only be solved by consciousness. And I've said this over and over and over again. You're not going to fix the problems of this world by voting in the next corrupt politician, by putting another 100 laws on the book, by taxing people to death and stealing their wealth. You're not going to change the world like that. You're going to change the world through consciousness. And I'm going to talk about that in great detail here in a moment. So if it's true that we create reality, 100% of the time without exception. And if we acknowledge this, and if we simply assert that that is true, we become potentially extremely powerful. We are extremely powerful. Yet the sorry truth is that most of us, most of the time, look at ourselves as though we had no power. And that is the human part of the formula. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. The human being has forgotten his or her power. We do not recognize that we are the creators of our own reality. So when we experience difficulties and problems of any kind, we feel ourselves to be victims at the mercy of circumstances, the whim of the gods, the bearers of bad karma, unworthy of success or happiness, you name it. Though as spiritual beings, we are the authors of our circumstances and the ultimate authorities on how and why things are the way they are. As human beings, we think we have no responsibility for our own suffering, though we are quick to take credit for things when they turn out well. So the first corollary to acknowledging that we create reality by our consciousness is that we have responsibility for the reality we create, that we are the authors of and authorities on our own existence and our own world. So we have tremendous power, potential power for the most part, but real power nevertheless. And responsibility and power go hand in hand. It's a matter of the ability to step up to the plate and using our opportunity wisely, using it responsibly, and using it in a way that is for the greatest good of all concerned. Beautiful, just a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. Now, having said that, I want to clarify this a couple ways. Some people get stuck in thinking that they create all reality. Remember, you're on the planet with 7 billion other people who are also creating reality. They're also creating reality. So your reality sometimes conflicts or butts heads with one of those other 7 billion people that are on this planet, or a group of those 7 billion, or a country of those 7 billion, or whatever. So you're not creating, the poverty, the strife, and all that. But what you are creating is your version of reality, and that radiates out and touches everybody else. So just like they're impacting you, you can impact them, but you need to actively, positively do that. I had one of my most memorable sessions with a client was her biggest question. The first question right out of her mouth was, "Hey, I got hit by a drunk driver. He came left of center on the highway and rammed into my car, and he killed himself. Fortunately, me and my daughter were okay. The airbags went off and we survived. It totaled the car, but we were hurt a little." But her question was, why did I create that? And the answer is not always that you created something. Every now and then, you might just run into an asshole. This guy drinking, it was his choice. Him passing out, it was his choice. Everything that happened on his side of the equation was his choice, and he dragged her and her daughter into it. And she happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was not a karmic debt or anything else like that. Sometimes those situations can be. Sometimes those situations are why you came here. Not all the time. Remember, you're on a planet with 7 billion creators, and sometimes you just run into an asshole. So don't take everything personally. So if you're at the checkout line and somebody speaks snarky to you, or gives you a dirty look, or treats you a certain way, or whatever, just chalk it up to they're having a bad day and send them love. Don't chalk it up to, oh my God, what is it in me that's putting that out in the universe and that's coming back. That can happen, but it's not every situation. And if you apply it to every situation in your life, it will disempower you, because this world is full of assholes, and you're going to come across some of them. And when you do, if you have that attitude, you will constantly be disempowered. What is it about me that made that person snarky? What is it about me that made that guy cut me off in traffic? What is it about me? What is it about me? What is it about me? The world doesn't revolve around you like that, but you do have an impact, and you can have an impact in the world. So when people do stupid things or say stupid things or treat you poorly, send them love. Send them love. That's all. They're just having a bad day, and wish them well. So anyway, that's just a beautiful piece of work. So we're going to do a couple pieces or a couple clearings tonight, and they go hand in glove. I really like this piece. But what I want to talk about is your consciousness and why it's important to continue to raise your level of consciousness, which you're doing every week, week in, week out, as you show up on these calls, as you live your life, as you clear your field. Your consciousness cannot help but increase. Okay. And why is that important? Well, consciousness drives the world. Consciousness drives the reality. And the average level of consciousness on the planet right now is 147, which is anger. Now, I don't have to convince you of that. You can turn on the TV. You can drive down the road. You can go to a mall. You can, go to a baseball game or whatever. There's a lot of angry people out there. Okay. And so the average level of consciousness on the planet is anger. And so what that has done, it has shifted the balance of power in this world. And so we have come back this time in order to move that balance the other direction. So this is, see that. This is what I mean by the balance of power. This is a seesaw, and this is love and light. And this is lack and struggle. And when you've got more people out of whack, they're running the show, and lack and struggle is dominating. So we need to get more people on this side of the equation and move this at least to a balance. Okay. And hopefully we can raise enough consciousness on the planet that love and light predominates. Why is that important? I'll go back to the concept that Hawkins talks about in his book, Power versus Force. And he has the concept of balancers. For example, one Jesus Christ balanced the energy of 700 million or 1,000 million people on the planet just by his level of consciousness. Buddha, Krishna, all balanced millions of people, balanced the negativity of millions of people. So one person living a conscious, loving life can negate the negativity of all these other people living an angry and agitated life. And I pulled the numbers out of the book. So for example, he talks about, now this is when he wrote the book, these numbers may have changed somewhat, but one individual at the level of consciousness of 700, which is enlightenment, balances the negativity of 70 million people. So when you lose one person, or this one person forgets who they are and doesn't hold that consciousness in their field and is not emanating that out into the world, we've got 70 million people that they're impacting this seesaw. They're impacting this balance, okay, in a negative way. But if you find a person, and this is what my mission is and what my purpose is to help people reclaim this. And I have a ton of individuals at that level and above. I have some in the 900s. And by getting them to be that, by getting them to be who they came here to be and doing what they came here to do, they balance out that many people. And so that's the way we move from this model to this model, and then to the third model of where love and light is even higher. Okay. So one at 700 balances the negativity of 70 million people at 200 or below. One at 600, which is peace. And there's a lot of people like that. Most of the indigos, oh no, I'm not going to say most. All of the indigos and crystals that have been coming into this world, millions of them, all the indigos and crystals that have been coming into this world are 600 or above. And they each balance the negativity of 10 million people. One at 500, which is love, which is your natural state anyway. At 500 balances the negativity of 750,000 people below 200. At 400, which is willingness and optimism, balances the people, 400,000 people. And at 300, they even balance the negativity of 90,000 people. So there's, and in this group over here, there's probably a ton of these people that are living below 200 that are 500 or 600 or 700 or 800 or 900. And if we can move the ledger, if we can shift the equation and move people from this side of the equation to this side of the equation, we shift the balance. That's the way we change the world. That's it. That's it. It's that simple. That's by raising consciousness. And when you raise consciousness, it has a ripple effect. So when you do your work on these calls every week, when you process these clearings on these calls every week, you're impacting everybody around you, your family, your immediate family for sure, all the friends that you have, all the acquaintances that you have, the people you work with, the people you run into at the mall or at the grocery store or whatever, you touch them in some form or fashion. You know, it's, and that's why we do this work the way we do it, by putting the codes and frequencies directly into your field. You have them. So when somebody has a need and you're talking to them and you have the code or frequency they need and they get close enough, boom, that vibration hits them and it clears from their field. So you're just walking around being a clearing machine. And so it's rippling through humanity. So this is an extremely important concept. This is the way we change reality. This is the way we shift this world. This is the way we change the world, is through increasing our consciousness and in turn, other people's consciousness, and on and on and on.